Since I began working on podcasts in 2020, I did the math today and it looks like I've churned out over 400 episodes, and I picked up some AI-driven shortcuts along the way ever since I started doing this show. So for today's AI Roundup episode, I'm going to pull back the curtain to show you how I leverage ChatGPT for quicker research, efficient writing, and streamlined post-production. What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be drilling down on how you can use ChatGPT to improve your podcasts and your workflow to write, record, and process them for distribution and social media. So for the purposes of this tutorial, I am going to be using GPT-4 because I'm a Plus subscriber and I'm a big fan of it. I've been using it for a while just for what ChatGPT does, but then they've recently integrated DALL-E 3, and that has been a huge boon to me. It actually helped me to go ahead and cancel my Midjourney subscription. I've got another video all about that, so make sure you go check that one out. So first we're going to talk about researching your shows. I think if you're going to do a show, you got to have some good material to talk about. And if it's really going to resonate with your audience, you need to spend some time investing in the research of what you're going to say. Some tools I found that can help with that is using ChatGPT plus Browse with Bing to help you find more articles than just a cursory Google search or a browse of Google News. That's typically where I go, and I'm going to see the most popular articles there. The thing about that is that if they're the most popular articles that you're reporting on, don't you think somebody that is your viewer has potentially already read the article? Why are they going to watch your video? Well, let's just search for one now. And this is a bit more general than I would usually do for the show, but I'm just saying, give me some breaking stories about AI tech. Let's see what it can do. All right, so we fast forwarded a little bit and it gave me 5 different stories. This is a resource I probably wouldn't have found on my own. It's showing a bunch of artificial intelligence stories from MIT News. The caveat is it doesn't link to the story that it says right here, a study found to excel at engineering design. This is just linking to a page of all artificial intelligence stories from MIT News. So that's a little bit weird, not what we were expecting, yet it still did inadvertently lead to the result we were looking for. Okay, so moving right along, let's start a new chat. We're going to try a different tool. This time we're going to use plugins. We're going to use one that I've been using called AI PDF. With the AI PDF tool plugged in, you can take something like a link to a PDF, obviously, and have it read the whole thing, and then you can conversate with it about the story in question. So an example that I use this for that was super helpful is the video that we just did earlier this week about the lawsuit against Midjourney, Stability AI, and DeviantArt. And there was a very long ruling. It was 28 pages in this PDF. I was able to feed that link into here. So you'll see I got a comprehensive list here of all the different complaints from the plaintiffs, which is really helpful to help distill down, 28 pages into a 7-item list, which leads us to the writing segment. Okay, so for writing my scripts, I found trying to get ChatGPT to just straight up write the script for me, it leaves a lot to be desired, even when I've gone in and I've fed it several of my past scripts to teach it how to write in my own unique voice. It's a little bit better, but usually it comes across like over the top and campy. So I find you really have to use ChatGPT more like a writing partner to help you refine your ideas or rewrite passages. For instance, sometimes I find I've written something really clunky or wordy, and I'll simply feed it to ChatGPT to rewrite with instructions to make it less wordy. Or a nice trick is to tell it to write for a certain grade level, like write this at an 8th grade level for me. Once again, you can't use the results without putting your own touch on it, but it helps me to get to the finish line faster. As an example, I used ChatGPT to help me write the intro for this episode because the original version just didn't flow well. So, as you can see on the screen, it's probably closer to 200 words. ChatGPT really helped me get to the point. I had to do it a couple of times to get the result that I could work with. And I tweaked it, but it really did help me. Next up, you're just going to use plain ChatGPT. You can use 4 if you're a Plus subscriber, or just 3.5 to read articles and summarize them. That helps me synthesize a foundation for my scripts. So for instance, for the show earlier this week, I found 3 different stories that I liked. And another big caveat here is that, as we always say, that you should be double checking your results from ChatGPT, meaning yes, read the articles yourself. Don't rely on ChatGPT to do this part for you. But sometimes I get so overwhelmed with the amount of information I can find on the web. It helps me a lot to use ChatGPT to distill down, my several news sources into one easier to digest summary. And then I go to town and I write the summary in my own voice with my own opinions and insights. All right, for the last segment of this, I'm going to touch on post-production, and this ChatGPT plugin is called YouTube Summarizer and has been a huge help and a time saver for me when I'm processing stuff like our live streams for distribution as a podcast. So let's jump over here If you have ChatGPT 4, make sure you choose plugins. And then from there, you can literally just feed it a link to a YouTube video and it'll go through it. If it's an hour long, it may have to go through 2 or 3 rounds of summarizing. But, oftentimes when we plan our live streams, we know a few items that will be discussed, but there's so much more that comes out of the conversations that, they aren't planned. They're just off the cuff. And some of those moments are the best in the recording. So with YouTube Summarizer, you can ask ChatGPT to go and read an entire transcript of a video and give you talking points or a summary. So here's one that I did for last week's episode of Bits and Books. So I feed the episode after it's over to this YouTube summary and it hits a bunch of great talking points. And then I can say, hey, would you make a summary of all those points for me? And then I can take that and I can edit it because I never found the final product satisfying from ChatGPT, but it gives me a great launching point to take this and then turn it into something that's more robust. Then, another thing I can do is I can take those episode summaries or descriptions and ask it to boil them down further. I found between posting your actual podcast episode to sharing to social media, you need several different sizes of the information you want to share. So you need sometimes a full page description of what happened in the episode down to one paragraph and even further down to one sentence that works for a meta description or social post. ChatGPT is great at taking your summary that you've edited and you're happy with and adapting it into many different forms from long page to summary to a sentence. So finally, you probably want to share your podcast on other platforms like TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, but finding those nuggets that are the best soundbite from the episode can take a while. I mean, sometimes you have to watch the whole episode and take notes. So something that I found can really streamline the process is to use YouTube Summarizer to give you highlights from the episode. So for instance, this is an example of our last episode of 38 to 38, episode 17 with Ashley Gordon. I fed it a link for that video and it went through and found a bunch of different spots where it, summarizes what happened with a time code. So that really helps me narrow down, what happened in the episode and see if any of them really speak to me. I do have to say ChatGPT does suffer from a lack of sense of humor, but with some highlights to guide you to certain time codes, you can kind of narrow down your search from maybe an hour to only 15 minutes of footage that you need to comb through. Now, as a little side note, there are several AI tools out there that will go through your entire podcast and create short vertical video clips for you to share on TikTok, etc. So some of the tools that I've tried are Opus Clip, Munch, and Vizard. And I'll leave some links to all those in the show notes. Okay, so if you're like me and you have 5 more shows to write, record, and edit this week, then it's time to wrap things up. But if you try any of these tools with ChatGPT to enhance your workflow, please sound off in the MMM Discord and let me know how they work for you. And so that's our AI Roundup for today. If you enjoy what we're doing here on the show, please help me out by liking this video, drop me a comment, and sub to the channel. Also, be sure to follow us on social media at MSP Media TV. You can email us news@mspmedia.tv or call 833 MSP Network to leave us a voicemail. I'm Phil Buck, and this has been your November 3rd episode of AI Roundup, and I'll see you next time.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.